When I first started this show, I never quite expected or thought to the fact that, with being able to do one video a week, I might not have time to cover all the news that I'd like to cover, and there's a lot of news this week. So, gonna give a couple quick picks real quick, just a few things that I'd like to touch on, but just don't have the time for. And that is, number one, we got Oliver Anthony coming out with an amazing hit that I am just so grateful to see all the people getting behind. This is a really powerful song that's going out there. Number two, Joe Biden, the current illustrious president, managing to disgrace himself horribly in the state of Hawaii and just be an absolute jerk to the people of Maui with his complete inconsiderate comparison of them losing their entire lives to him losing his 67 Corvette.
Come on, man.
Number three, we have Donald Trump checking himself into a nice little jail over in Georgia, waiting his fourth indictment, because apparently the Biden administration can do nothing better than try to prosecute their number one opponent. But now for what I'd really like to talk about today, Prigozhin's plane crash, because yes, the Wagner group leader is dead. Good evening and welcome back, everybody. It's wonderful to be back here recording. As you probably just noticed, we got ourselves a new intro. I've been messing around with the Blender app and playing around with CGI and having quite a bit of fun with it. So I might actually get into this. We might be able to make some cool stuff with that. But anyways, nonetheless, I hope y'all liked the intro for the video earlier. Whether you did or not, just please let me know what you thought. So getting into it today, like I said, we have Prigozhin's plane crash. You see, the leader of the Wagner group, who tried to stage a coup against the world's greatest dictator, or one of them at least, managed to get himself killed in a plane crash. And I was actually considering making a video about the whole coup in Russia back when it first started, but ended up opting out for something else. I can't remember what now. I'd have to go back and look. But nonetheless, I wish I had, because I could have capitalized on some bets. I was telling people that he'd be dead within 3 months. Now, I was betting for poison, probably like a heart attack or something, and not a airplane crash. But nonetheless, he's still dead. Turns out when you cross Putin and try to overthrow Russia, you end up dead within a few months. If you're gonna attack the king, you better kill him.
Get over it!
So getting into it, the Wagner Group's coup on Russia was something that, in a strange way, I was excited for, because the Wagner Group was definitely not a group that I particularly agree with, but it could have been amazing to see a power at play that was not one of the elites. You see, the world's basically got like three classes of elites, it feels like. You have your New World Order elites, which are, the American Congress, the United Nations, all of them, who are just the politicians of the world and the people who line their pockets, mostly pharmaceutical and tech companies, Bill Gates, those kind of folks. Then you have like the third world kind of elites, the folks over in Saudi Arabia that own the majority of the world's oil, and basically all they seem to care about is energy control and money so that they can buy and do whatever they want. But they don't really seem to try to control politics for the most part. Sometimes they do, but not quite as much. And the third group of elites you got are kind of like the outsiders, I feel like. They're the ones that manage to get rich on their own power, and so they don't need anybody else. And so that puts them at odds with the rest of the elites. And in this group, you see folks like Elon Musk, who's managed to get rich just on his own entrepreneuring and designing and SpaceX and everything. And so now when he disagrees with the rest of the elites, they can't really stop him because they don't line his pockets. And so other folks you see in this category would be Donald Trump, who's managed to get rich based on his real estate. And so these folks, I don't necessarily think that they're any better than the rest of the elites. They still seem just as corrupt, but the thing is they don't have the same people lining their pockets, so they're more free to do what they want to do instead of what someone else wants them to do. Now, somewhere between the New World Order and these outside clubs elites, I feel like you find the very unique elite person of Vladimir Putin. Now, Putin is an interesting character because he's managed to rise to power on his own accord. He, as far as I can tell, doesn't seem to have too many people lining his pockets, and yet he is still incredibly powerful and a corrupt politician as they come. As you can see, anybody who ever challenges him suddenly disappears or dies a mysterious death or ends up in jail. You never know, but something will always happen to them. Now, I find Putin interesting because since he doesn't agree with the rest of the elites, Russia kind of ends up being an outside group in many ways. You see, while America has their own elite club in the United Nations, Russia's been one of the few that just does not want to put up with our nonsense. You see, America, the US specifically, tends to try to force its beliefs on every other country that it can. But Russia's the one nation that has kind of decided we're not going to follow that. Putin doesn't like that idea. He has his own plans and doesn't want to bow to the US, and I can respect that. I disagree with him on many things, but I can certainly respect not wanting to bow to us. I mean, we do the same thing. But what was interesting to me was seeing this Wagner group manage to rise up, being almost entirely built on the backs of the people. The people were the ones controlling this, and that's not something you see very often. The majority of the time, you only see the political leaders. So I was actually really excited when they started to march on Moscow, because I thought this was going to be an interesting thing to see what happens when a new power tries to take control. Now, of course, this was crushed pretty quickly because Prigozhin decided to back down before anything, officially stating something such as, what was the statement? He didn't want to shed Russian blood. But that just doesn't quite line up, because he shed plenty of blood. He's a mercenary leader. Bloodshed is not something that phases him very easily. And yet it did there. Now, personally, I have no proof of this. I think Putin got to him, because Putin, being a former KGB officer, is very good at getting to people. And I'd imagine somebody was sent and got to perhaps not Prigozhin, but perhaps Prigozhin's family, or someone's family that was close to him. And next thing he knows, it's not just him and his soldiers that are possibly going to be injured and hurt and brutally murdered, but their families. And that's enough to back down. Now, when he backed down, of course, the logical conclusion was that even though Putin said he was fine to go hang out in Belarus, we all felt that he would be dead. If you didn't, I'm a little shocked, because that happens to all of Putin's rivals. So now we see 2 months later, he is dead. And once again, we come to this horrific conclusion, is the only thing I can call it, that it is nearly impossible to challenge the elites of the world. Now, the Wagner group was not some small group. They were a very powerful group. Current estimates have them at around 30,000 killed or injured in the Ukrainian war while they were fighting for Russia's sake. Now, it's unclear exactly how many were marching on Russia, but we can estimate a pretty sizable force, and from what we've seen, the majority of Russian people seemed to support them. They had a very large army in their control marching on Russia, and yet still the elites were able to get to them without firing a single shot. And that is what's scary, because no revolution has ever started without there being a first shot. Once there's a first shot, then it comes down to whoever's the most powerful. But until that first shot, there's not going to be a revolution. So for the Russians to be able to completely destroy this army without firing a single shot at them just illustrates the insane power that they have. This is the power of the elites, and if you consider that's Russia that has been war-ravaged in Ukraine, mostly thanks to the Americans constantly helping Ukraine, imagine what the American elites have. And that's rather scary to me, because within every day that we just constantly wait, the government just gains more and more power. And we see the corruption now when you're looking at the current administration, how much it has managed to prosecute the former administration while giving the Biden family all kinds of securities and funds. I mean, the Clintons never went to prison. Odds are Hunter Biden's never going to go to prison. And yet look how hard and desperately they're trying to get Trump imprisoned. And so with this, it's rather scary to me because you constantly hear, especially the Republican media, saying that all we need to do is take a stand. We just need to speak out and things will change. And yet a literal march on Russia's capital was put down without a single shot. Most people are going to point out the fact that Russia is far more corrupt than America. But is that really true? Or is that just what we've been blinded to believe? Because there's a lot that America's government has done horribly corrupt for decades now. So the only difference is in Russia, they're more open about it. Everybody knows Vladimir Putin is a dictator. It's out in the open. In America, it's just hidden. So it's got me very much questioning, what is the possible action for us to take if we ever want to gain the freedom back that we are lost and are continuing to lose? That is the question that I really have seeing this, because when corruption continues to grow like this, eventually we are going to end up where it is so out in the open that our president/dictator can humiliate his rival, force him to stand out without a shot, and then have him killed within 2 or 3 months. And that is terrifying. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank y'all for all y'all's comments throughout the week. If you like this video, please consider leaving a like, a comment down below, or even subscribing, as that would really help out the channel. Until next time, I will see y'all later.